Shut up and sit down.
Hi everybody, Tony Day here. I just wanted to take some time today and talk a little bit about something that has been really bothering me when I talk about cinematography. And I'm just going to point out, I'm not a cinematographer. I shoot mainly video production, right? I've done a couple short films, 24, 48, 72-hour film festival projects. I went to film school, all that kind of stuff. I'm not a cinematographer, okay? But I do appreciate really, really good cinematography, and I'm aware of how much work it takes to pull off something like, a Goodfellas club shot, or one of my favorites, which is, I don't know what I call it, the Eddie Valiant backstory shot from Roger Rabbit, where it goes all over his office. The thing is that I generally don't see discussions in social media about how to use the frame or movement to tell a story in filmmaking or video content creation. It's generally statements that appear to be misguided, usually talking about needing a piece of gear to do something. And it's usually something about sensor size or something like that. And, it ends up being a fight where people are arguing about things like shallow depth of field, okay? And this obsession with blurred backgrounds is something that I have never understood. And, this is art, and everybody's different in their own tastes, and frankly, I don't have to understand it, right? But I want to tell you that shallow depth of field to me is, if you're obsessed with it and it's all you talk about and the only thing you think about when it comes to cinematography, it's just really shallow thinking. I've seen it used in movies, right? But it's not often. Next time you see a movie that you really, really like, try to count how many times you see them use shallow depth of field for a headshot, okay? And how many times they do something else that is more interesting. And those shots that are shallow depth of field are not the kinds of shots that I find personally compelling, and they're not the kinds of things that really make a story interesting to me. There are techniques that are used, such as deep focus, clever use of wide angles, intelligent set design and decoration, camera movement, great use of lighting, perspective, all which have nothing really to do with the shallow depth of field. I won't go into all these techniques, but I just wanted to talk about a couple alternatives used really, really well in some critically acclaimed films. So here's an article regarding Danny Cohn's work in one of my favorite Oscar dramas, The King's Speech. I have seen this movie so many times, and the wide angle is used so beautifully here. I can imagine many would say, looking at the shot, dude, why is he using a wide angle for this shot? What the hell? Why is it that you can see so many people and focus in the background? I can see people back there. Why isn't he using a longer lens and blurring that out, make it really beautiful, right? Shallow depth of field, man. Well, here's the thing, okay? He's providing something that is usually missing in those ultra shallow depth of field kinds of shots, and it's called context, okay? He's giving context to the scene. And you see, this movie is about a man struggling to find the confidence to find his own voice, right? The confidence to become who he ought to be. He just can't bring himself to look the part because he's got a stutter. So, you see all those people back there, and if they're obliterated, if they're completely gone, if they're just blurred, he's isolated instead of being surrounded, right? He is then, not having all these people looking on. He's not in this big environment with all these people waiting to listen to this one man. Look at all these people back here waiting to listen to him make a fool out of himself. And you think you have a hard time with public speaking, right? Look at this quote here from the Studio Daily article. There's a link in the description, right? He says, "You also get much more of the background that you instantly see where the person is. It's not just out of focus mush. It contextualizes where the person is." And I just love this. The whole idea of contextualizing a character in a situation is so important in filmmaking. And this context would be completely missing if it just was, a blurred mosh, right? Now, here's another shot that I really love, also used in the article. Look how huge that microphone is. What a daunting task, right? The mic just dwarfs this poor man. And it's like he's stuck in a box, and he's about to take on this task of fighting this thing, and he's armed only with his voice and his confidence, right? So if everything was just thrown out of focus, super shallow depth of field, right? You don't get that same feeling. You don't feel it, okay? And I want movies that make me feel things, okay? Not just look how pretty the blur is in that background. Here's another shot from one of my favorite films. Yeah, I know, right? Citizen Kane is so cliche. Everybody loves it. And then you have the other people that go like, oh, it's not so great. Dude, it's a freaking brilliant film. And if you are someone who wants to be a cinematographer or a director or a writer or anybody in filmmaking, anything in narrative filmmaking, you have to watch this movie and you need to pick it apart, okay? You need to watch it. And in this scene, we have a technique called deep focus. This is where multiple things are happening all at once, right? And you can see everything happening. Your eyes can search around and see all of the context to the story that's unfolding in front of you. You can see out in the front, there's this woman who looks like a Quaker. Her hair's all up in a bun. She's very, it's like she's very strict, very, very proper, very direct in everything that she wants to do, and very clean. And then she's talking to a guy who looks like, businessman, about what's going to happen with the kid that's just playing in the snow in the background, right? And just to the left, you see a dude who looks disheveled. He's saying something about being a bad father, or if he ever was a bad father or a bad husband, all that kind of stuff. And it gives you so much context without even having to cut. It's absolutely brilliant the way that it's delivered, okay? I could go on forever about this, right? I think that there's so many other things for us to talk about when it comes to cinematography. I hope that you, after this video, can appreciate these different kinds of cinematography techniques, even if it's just shown to you very briefly. And, of course, leave some comments below. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Is shallow depth of field like the only thing? Do we need to start shooting with like medium format sized sensors just to tell a story now? Because, Super 35 isn't good enough. Micro Four Thirds not good enough. I mean, my perspective is this, right? For people who really, really like the shallow depth of field thing, I'm not saying that you should never do it. I'm just saying that obsessing over it and making all of your decisions in regards to gear and talking poorly about people who want to shoot with a sensor size that's not full frame, for example, that really most people who are cinematographers, at least the ones that I know, they talk about these other things a lot more than they do shallow depth of field. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it, doesn't piss off too many people that I'm having an opinion. And catch you next time.